Recording. Suicide Squad. Black Widow's Harley. Avengers. Shuri's Lexus.
Folks, what you're hearing is the top 10 sexiest cars in comic book, media? Universe? Movies? Who decides these fucking lists? I can't even name you 10 cars in general.
10 cars at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. 10 cars in comic book movies is rough. I would say like Batmobile.
Yeah. Superman mobile.
Tony Stark's Acura NSX.
Get the fuck out of here.
Tony Stark's Audi e-tron GT. I don't think any of these played essential roles.
It's an Audi. It's an Audi.
It was like Tony Stark pulling up in a nice car and then getting out and being like, "Park my car, kid."
The taxi in Deadpool.
Doctor Strange's Lamborghini Huracan. It doesn't say hurricane. It says Huracan.
So this
That
is just
can't be right.
a list of cool cars in movies.
Right.
This could have been about coolest movies in Fast and Furious.
Right.
Black Widow's Chevrolet Corvette.
Is the Batmobile on there?
No, these are all like cars you could reasonably buy.
Yeah.
I can buy the Batmobile. It's out there. I've looked it up. It's on eBay.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you could buy it.
Should I?
No.
But I could if I wasn't rich enough and dumb enough. Man, what a waste of a list.
I've seen worse.
The Chevy truck from Hulk, 2008.
The list is probably derived by somebody who
Loves cars.
well, or is angling for additional product placement.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Why else would you put that out there?
Ooh, 6 Audis on this list.
Interesting.
Okay. I see who's behind that.
The 12 horniest trees in the MCU. Number 1, oak. Number 2, maple.
None of them are Groot.
Yeah. Groot never mentioned. Number 3, birch.
Well, welcome to First Issue Club. We are the comic book podcast that guides you through the muddy and murky waters of the comic book landscape, specifically the number 1 issue landscape.
Mm-hmm.
First issues, the most important issues in the world.
Yeah. The first issues are the ones that make you, that creators want you to read and connect with and buy more from them. They want you to read number 2, number 3, and number 4 after you read number 1. So they make number 1s the best, or they're supposed to, and we help you with that.
And then maybe around 5, 6, 7, they hit you with another good one.
They do.
Keep you invested.
We call that the secret number 1.
Yes.
It's not a real number 1,
Yep.
but it's
Or
almost like a
maybe-
new jumping off point.
Or maybe they have one number 1 and then they want you to go out and read a bunch of other number 1s that they say tie into this number 1.
Yes.
We kind of have today.
Comics is a real science.
We call them money ones.
Today, we're talking about 2 comic books, Archie and Katy Keane, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right title for this book?
It
Yes.
is.
There's nothing flashier than that. It's pretty straightforward. I'm really excited to talk about that one. And then we're also talking about Ironman 2020, number 1.
Yes.
But first, let's hit some news. Do you guys know what the best-selling comic book of the last 10 years was? We're hitting a new decade, 2020, Ironman 2020.
The best comic book? Or
Selling. The
Best selling
best-selling
over the last
comic
decade.
book over the last decade.
Oh boy.
So I think this may have been spoiled for me because I saw Robert Kirkman say something about it, but is it Walking Dead?
Walking Dead is on the graphic novels list.
Okay.
Days Gone By, the first volume of the series,
Okay.
was the number 1 selling graphic novel.
That tracks for me.
And
That
then
makes sense.
I think the comic book is, and only because they had literally 100 variants, Star Wars.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jason Aaron's Star Wars #1.
They were selling and pushing that book
Really?
like nobody's goddamn
It
business.
sold
Over the last decade? When did that come out?
2014.
Yeah.
They said it sold like over 1 million copies.
That's outrageous.
Holy
Isn't
cow.
that crazy?
And I can't talk to anyone that's read it. Who's buying this book?
Yeah, I mean, even though I really like what Jason Aaron puts out, that was under my radar.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't stick with me. Neither did the new series. I talked about it a little bit on the Patreon,
Yeah.
but it jumps in right after Empire Strikes Back, but before Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just boring and dull. How many things have we seen with like Luke and Han and Leia, etc.?
Yeah. Who's that for?
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit?
Old guys.
Yeah.
I think
Man, that's crazy.
I think our generation is really into the newer characters and fictional characters and even side stories of throwaway characters from the movies
yeah.
that are given new life in novels and comics and whatever.
Yeah.
But the
Remember that?
3 main cast members are like old dude truists, I think.
Yeah. That's the butter to their bread.
Yeah.
The one I remember that you talking about and really liking to come out of that was, well, not the same series, but
Yep.
Captain Phasma. Didn't you say that one was really good?
Oh, I really liked that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
I
that was really
wanted
good.
to get into that one.
That character was sorely underutilized in the movies.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Maul complex.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
People loved the character, thought it was so cool. Kill him right away.
Yeah.
Never comes back. Spoiler, Darth Maul dies in
Yeah.
the first movie he's in.
Darth Maul, Boba Fett, Captain Phasma, like, sucks
Yep, it does.
that they have these such dynamic and interesting looking villains / anti-heroes and like you just murk them.
Well, and they set up great conflicts too that were those characters to come back a movie or two later on, they would be incredible, like, oh shit moments.
Yes, exactly.
But people don't think ahead
Not in Star Wars.
on trilogies, I guess.
They're working movie to
You
movie.
think you'd would. I guess at least the MCU learned from that, and they're thinking ahead almost too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 10 years in the future.
But it's making books awesome. We just read a headline that Morbius was in Spider-Man: Homecoming,
Yes.
and we looked at the stills. There's no way.
I think that's a wishful thinking Easter egg.
Yeah.
I think so too.
That's a clickbait article, folks, and don't be duped.
There's a blurry guy in the background who like kind of maybe looks like Jared Leto.
Here's the thing. If it is, and they somehow like tie that into a plot where he's like been in the background, I don't know what you get from catching that
Yeah, right.
other than like just being able to say, oh, I called that. I don't know.
And does Jared Leto have nothing to do with this time other than show up for
A day of work.
a 1-second background scene
Just to see what.
where he walks by just so people can go, oh, did you know this?
Yeah. That guy kind of looked like
10
Jared
years
Leto.
later? Like, there's no way he was signed in to play that person.
No, fuck no. No. That's stupid.
Yeah. Agree. Speaking of articles and headlines we're seeing, Sci-Fi Wire also wrote an article this past week about the model of comic books coming out month to month could be going the way of the dinosaur soon.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I feel like we've heard a little bit before. We've talked about the micro publisher, TKO,
Yes.
and they're making comic books like bingeable, release them all at once to follow kind of the Netflix model
Mhm.
for comic books. What do you guys think about month-to-month comics and how you consume comics?
It's expensive.
Yeah,
A lot of books come out. Buying comic books weekly is a chore,
yeah,
and it is draining. And it's mostly because they're inflating the prices almost every 2 to 3 years. I mean, comic books are almost $5 a piece now.
yeah,
You can't keep that up if you're a collector.
right.
I mean, you have to pare down to almost 2 to 5 books a week, and like that's not even like a third of all the books that come out. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It is.
And when you talk about having to compete with all of the storylines and the saturation of those stories that are coming out weekly, I could see it being really, really hard to gain any ground when you have a month-to-month release.
Yeah, I mean,
if it's a self-contained trade, fine.
True.
I don't think that hurts you at all, but it's because you're able to get all that story, and then if you have subsequent volumes, that's your how you gain ground there, but that's not going to work for a serialized, ongoing.
I always have this moment where I'll be in the comic book shop and I'll walk past issue 5 of something and I'll think, oh yeah, I loved the first 2 issues of that. Did I miss the last few? Am
Yeah.
I never going to read this again? Did my shop not order enough? Or maybe I do pick up the 3rd issue and I'm like, I don't remember what happened in the 2nd one just because they're too spread out when they're serialized.
Yep.
It's
You can't have recaps. Like if you're gonna do
Yeah.
the binging format, and I mean you guys have been really talking up
TKO.
TKO, and I'm really excited to get into some of those stories. But if you're going to do that binging format, you're gonna suffer if you don't have the recap
Yeah.
or a way to kind of encapsulate what people have already read if you're spreading it out.
Did they have an idea of how the new format would look instead of books month to month, or did they? I mean, how would you do it really?
I think part of the big takeaways was just moving more to graphic novels. That you're biting off arcs at a time.
Honestly, that may be. I mean, it's getting to the point now where Marvel and DC are competing with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marvel and DC each put out 10, 15 books a week.
Right.
If I'm a exclusive Marvel head, I can't afford 15 books a week.
Yep.
That's like a ton of money. That's almost like $65.
At the same time, I love picking up single issues, and it's just because I've been doing it forever.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if comic book people who've been buying comic books for the last 10 years or more, we're just going to keep doing that for the rest of our lives because we're habitual people who are crazy about collecting.
Mm-hmm.
And new readers are going to be the ones who consume comics and media in a different way, right? So it may make sense for those large publishers, at least, to just continue printing stuff
Mm-hmm.
and letting us buy it and serving it up differently to a different audience.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be a generational thing, and when the new editor-in-chief and whatever publishing house comes in, they're going to shake up some things and go, okay,
Yeah.
this generation buys differently.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be losing money if we print issues every month.
Yeah.
So we got to do in a digest, and if they sell more, then they're going to what basically is going to happen is whatever makes them the most money, they're going to do.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
So
I
it'll
would-
be interesting.
Yeah, I could certainly see indies going to this route way more quickly.
I'm surprised that they haven't.
Yeah.
And here's why. I am this kind of person that gets in the habit of, like what you mentioned with indies. I love the first 2 issues, and then I forget.
Yep.
I forget that they come out. I forget that they ended. If it was like TKO does, like a digest first thing out, I got to pay $15 for the whole series. That saves me time and money, and I won't forget it, and I'll read the whole thing, and then I might buy more books from this publisher or these artists and creators and stuff.
And I know it's nice having floppy comic books in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
but it's honestly a better reading experience.
It is.
Having a collected compendium or graphic novel.
Yeah, economically and just
It's funny.
pleasurably.
It's funny because we're talking about like habits but then also talking as fans who would rather consume the stories themselves. It does make more sense to be able to read it in a complete form instead of really getting invested in characters and then them falling off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
As far as you know. But the spec of the single issues and the habit of the single issues is still a huge driving force. So I think they're probably still going to battle it out for a while
Yeah.
in terms of what's bringing in the most money.
Yeah.
I think I know why I will never give up single issues. It's the covers. They're like giant baseball cards to me.
Sure.
Well,
Yes,
but now with the monthly stuff in the trades, like you get like even
cover
in
gallery in the
Ironman
back.
2020, like you get some of the issues that have those storyboards and the notes and the director's cut and that stuff, which is
Logically, you're making all the sense in the world.
I get where you're coming from, though. It's like buying a book of pictures of baseball cards versus having the box of baseball cards to flip through.
That's 100% correct.
yeah.
Like, yes, in this book that has all the pictures, I can definitely see all of them.
Yeah.
But there's something about just holding each individual one and looking at it and just like the tactile feel of it all.
Flipping through it.
Yes. Oh,
In your cardboard box.
it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
And that's why I am an addict for comic books.
It's funny too because I don't think necessarily when you think about why comic books were serialized in the first place, it was because the format suited it. They were very much campy, over the top, soap opera-y sort of things with the big cliffhangers at the end.
Like radio
Yeah.
before it
Right.
or simultaneously.
They don't tell stories like that anymore. They're not one-off individual stories with like dopey cliffhangers or better yet resolutions at the end.
Right.
What
That's what it is.
Spider-Man going on an adventure and kicking a guy's butt and having resolution by the end of the issue and then expecting that next week.
Yeah. Prime example, Doomsday Clock took a year and a half, over 12 issues.
And I'm pissed about it.
I heard.
I hated the last issue of Doomsday Clock. And you can hear a solo rant of that in our Patreon. You know when someone goes on a solo rant and records their thoughts about something by themselves that they're a lunatic and are probably very upset.
I was going to say passionate, but I mean,
I should have went that right.
potato.
There's a thin line between passion and lunacy.
I fully agree there.
Before we get into the episode,
Yep.
we're gearing up for C2E2.
Second time around. Now it's an annual trip.
Yep, we did it last year. We got those press badges.
Oof, those crisp, clean, hang around your neck press badges.
Having this podcast makes us the viest of peists.
I
Ooh,
like
we'll work
the
on that.
idea that C2E2 this time it's annual.
This time it's annual.
Oh, sorry.
So, like last year, you may have known if you follow us on social media, check our stories, check our feeds. Like, we're going to be posting all kinds of videos, pictures. We may run into some old friends. We may run into some creators that will take pictures with us. And if you, the listener, are going to be at C2E2, let us know, and we'll meet up with you.
Yeah.
And talk with you. We'd love to meet some of you guys and hang out. And so, if you're in
Some of you
Chicago,
guys?
not all, some.
No. All of you guys. We'd love to meet some of you guys. I just thought that was funny.
I've talked to a lot of people on the Twitter. I want to meet some of them, not all of them.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to feel like you're there too, if you're not going to be there, but you want to feel like you are, you want to hear about the high highs and the low lows and all the craziness and panic attacks that we may have trying to navigate this place.
Yeah.
I'm very excited because on Twitter you can't do stories, which I'm bummed about.
Yeah.
But the Instagram's going to be popping.
Yeah. I'm going to have you all log into the Instagram probably. We'll do it.
Ooh.
We'll all be fueling the stories,
Flooding.
Holy
baby.
shit, that's going to be constant updating.
Yep. I'll also say that we had a blast on Friday,
Oh, we went off on Friday.
which is maybe one of the less popular days to go to a comic book convention, but it's easier to chat with creators. It's easier to move around. You're going to be able to buy the best stuff for the stuff that's going to sell out quickly.
Yep.
Because you're there the first day when other people are at work.
Absolutely.
So if you can take that Friday off and spend the entire day, in my honest opinion, that's the best time to go. Otherwise, you could wait in line for 6 hours to get Goku's autograph.
It's definitely Friday or Sunday because Sunday you'll get the deals if you're a little lighter in the wallet. But Saturday you have to be like
Take a Xanax.
what is it, a sadist?
Yeah.
To do that to yourself. Like, I'm only going to go on Saturday because I love crowds.
Yeah.
It is too much. It is overwhelming. I have a tough time on Saturdays. I mean, it's the best people watching day because that's when all the cosplayers come to really show their shit off. So that's a blast.
Showing off their buns and boobs. That's what cosplayers do nowadays.
What did you say the other day? You said booties and breasts
Booties,
and
breasts,
all
and
the
all the
rest.
rest.
Ooh.
It's a little thing I say around the house now.
I like it. Should we wear something stupid to C2E2 so people know if they see us?
I
It's
will
still like
give
a month
you
and
all
a half
my money.
out. Yeah.
It's like end of February, beginning of March.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got time.
Oh boy.
We got time.
So hopefully we see you there.
I hope we see a lot of you guys there. But like I said, check the feeds, check our Instas, check our Twitters. We're going to be posting all kinds of shit that day, that weekend. So get ready to be spammed.
And as we always say on this podcast, let's get this podcast started.
Podcast started. Podcast started.
Cool.
We're here.
In the flesh.
We've arrived inside the episode.
All right. Live text in. Text us and let us know what you want us to cover first. Ironman 2020 or Archie and Katy Keane. I see the results
Press
coming
3.
in.
3 for, or are they just texting?
Katy Keane has an early lead. A lot of CW fans out there.
Oh shit.
And Katy Keane is the winner. Thanks for voting. You guys are just
Yeah.
a swath of menches.
Can we put that on a shirt?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a part of a swath of menches.
We do have to have an audience people shirt too.
I'm an audience person.
What we call our fans.
Yeah.
It's either a swath of menches or audience people.
I love swath of menches.
We're going to run out of money spending it all on t-shirts.
That no one's going to buy.
There's no other way I'd rather go broke.
Yep. Bad t-shirt investments.
Drowning in Fruit of the Loom.
The anti-gold rush of the 2020s. Too many
Gold Exodus.
Too many funny t-shirts. There's what would you say?
What would I
When
say?
there's too many of something.
An abundance.
Ooh, a whole mess.
A big old mess.
That's a
tease.
swath of menches of
A
shirts.
whole mess of teas. Lousy with them.
I'm lousy with teas.
Well, you know who likes t-shirts? Mrs. Katy Keane,
Ooh.
fashionista. Do either of you have some context of the character in the CW and everything that's going on?
I have a small idea of who Katy Keane was in comic book form.
Yeah,
Only
she's
what I
an older
researched.
character, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since like the 40s.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So that she came out about the same time as like Archie, but like that's when like Western comics and space comics and like romance comics were a thing, and she spun out from like the romance comics thing, and she was like just this very fashion forward woman.
Okay.
Have you
Girl.
seen Twin Peaks?
Yes.
So Audrey Horne is kind of how I feel like she was depicted. Sort of pin-up-y, but not like unlike Veronica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just a little bit more edgy, I guess. Where Veronica was like daddy's little girl, she was maybe more of a self-made lady.
Yeah. She seemed less bratty than Veronica.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only context I have of who Katy Keane is.
So there's a CW show that's actually on the way
Mm-hmm.
that I believe exists within the Archieverse,
Mm-hmm.
but Katy Keane's getting her own show. So we may have some crossover episodes there.
Right.
I feel really nerdy saying Archieverse.
It's a whole thing though. We
Yeah.
didn't make it, they did.
Yeah,
You
right.
Riverdalia.
Someday they could cross over Netflix Sabrina into Riverdale.
Oof.
That's what this story.
Oh, completely.
So
Archie
if they're
and
gonna
Sabrina
follow
are
suit-
dating in it.
yeah.
Which ooh.
Is Jughead eventually going to become a werewolf in Riverdale? I mean, one can
Okay.
only hope.
Let's just say this. The Jughead in this comic was a mere fucking image from the CW Jughead.
This was definitely a series playing off of the CW show.
Correct.
Art imitating art.
Yeah. It starts with one of his interior monologues writing a story for the paper, which is how every episode of Riverdale starts.
And
he was
had me rolling my eyes. And
he's a very grandiose emo kid.
Yeah. If Zenga existed in the Riverdale verse, he'd be having one.
Yeah. If you don't know, Zenga was like a...
Oh my God, we have to explain what Zenga is.
I think we do.
Go ahead.
It was like a live blog. Not live blog.
It was like MySpace before MySpace.
Yeah.
If you don't know what MySpace was like, it was like Facebook before Facebook was it.
But Zenga was a little more journal-based.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you would write about your day and be very melodramatic. Everyone on it was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And they had these things called e-props.
It's like a WordPress, but like more socialized.
Totally.
Where people could like
Yes.
e-prop.
Yeah, they could e-prop your post.
Mm-hmm.
You could have music playing.
Yes. Here's the funny thing about e-props. You could give a post 2 or you could give a post 1. And if you ever gave a post 1 e-prop, all your friends would be like, fuck her. Why the fuck is she giving me just 1 fucking e-prop? Just don't e-prop it at all.
Don't give me one.
Withholding people.
Yeah.
The meanies of your school.
To allow that option was sadistic. And just, I think the creators of Zenga just wanted to start fights.
Now we know.
So like, yeah.
Oh, can I draw another parallel between the CW show and the comic book?
Yeah.
Characters way too sexy for high school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
For sure.
Yeah.
What high schools are these?
Mm-hmm.
I remember my high school experience.
Well,
it was awkward and hairy.
So I think this is actually a thing now. This is how high schools are looking more and more. This was not our high schools, but it is unfortunately a little bit closer to what it's like now.
So
just
everyone's wearing stilettos?
All the contouring, all the crop tops, like all the... Do you know, you see these gaggles of gals out on the plaza, plaza, out in the streets. That's how they look.
Lip syncing on TikTok
all the time.
Absolutely.
God damn it.
If to be fair, if I had their bodies, like if I was looking tight, I'd be wearing the same shit. So I think it's because I've become fat and lethargic that I hate it now. Fashion doesn't fit my body type anymore.
It's dumb. If it's not for me, it's stupid.
Well, let's get into the book.
Yes.
Caitlin, do you have a synopsis for what Archie and Katy Keane was?
Not much more than what we've already covered. Essentially, this book follows this character in the context of her kind of debuting into Riverdale society. Yeah. She was trying to keep herself under wraps for a backstory I can only assume that is to come.
That is shrouded in mystery and intrigue.
But she has an idea of how she wants to introduce herself and what she has planned for her sort of entrance into the Riverdale scene. Most of the people seem to be very excited about it. There's a lot of mystery. There's a fun thing about a new person coming to your town and your school. However, Archie seems to be taking it a little hard because he's trying to start his album and she's going to be taking some of his limelight.
Yeah. Fuck you, Archie. Grow up, dickhead.
You've dated every girl.
Yeah, seriously.
You've got a
Archie's
great
the biggest whore.
Music career. Just let somebody else make some clothes and have some fun. It's fine.
Yeah. Also, Katie's sister's name is Sis.
To which she responds with, yeah, legit.
Legit, my name's Sis. My parents do hella drugs. Even in the concept of comic book hilarity, you don't name a human Sis.
I thought this has to be from 1940s comics, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Well, and the other thing is, I think the writer, what's her first name?
Mariko.
It's Mariko. Yes, Tamaki.
Did a run on She-Hulk that I loved.
And she also did that Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, right?
Yes.
She is a lot more tapped into the youths than I am.
Youths and youths culture.
Yeah. And it didn't. The thing is like even when you're looking at these high school kids that look like they're in a soap opera, it still is reading in a way that you can somehow
Imagine kids
relate to.
talking, yeah.
Yes. And I think that speaks to her talent. Like,
Yep.
she's tapped in, but she's also still making it accessible despite me being a 32-year-old woman who has no business investing the way I do in CW stuff. Like, it's still right up my alley.
I'm right there with you, and I love the way they handle the CW stuff, and I love the way that this comic was handled. I think it'd be so what we expect and what we have in our head for what an Archie comic book is, that's going to introduce a character from the new show, which is essentially just like advertisement fuel.
Yeah,
for
but
the CW.
it didn't feel like that, to be honest.
It didn't feel like it at all. And they gave us zero backstory and so much ambiguity about Katy Keane.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, God, gotta learn about this new it girl in town.
She has ideas and sequins.
And God, can she take an Instagram photo? What the fuck could her secret be?
No, she doesn't take them. Sis takes them, bud.
Oh,
Sis takes 'em.
sis, take them.
Sis is pulling the strings behind that Insta.
Okay, one of the weirdest scenes in the comic is when she makes this crazy roller derby looking outfit and then shows up at like Riverdale High, which I'm assuming is like the first time ever.
In roller skates.
Because she's never met any
Yes.
of these girls before, right? She shows up in roller skates.
Except for at the show where she sings.
Yes.
She met him there, but not in school.
Right.
Yes.
So runs into Betty, Veronica, Sabrina. And
It's like,
they
hey,
say,
bitches, I got outfits. Let's cut.
yeah.
Let's go, girls. Dun, 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 dun,
And they're all like, yes, we love you, Katie.
How did she get my measurements?
And then they're all looking ridiculous at a roller rink, and there's insane close-ups of thigh gap and like the thinnest toothpick legs you've ever seen.
Right.
And I was just like, the stars of this book look anorexic.
They're as thin as this paper.
I was like, given they're supposed to be 16, 15-year-olds,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're proportioned
Weird.
like adults otherwise.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. That stuff always strikes me as odd. But
It wasn't as hypersexual as the TV show was.
yeah,
And will be till
Yeah.
the end of time.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
I even thought it was weird how Sabrina is like a little bit too into Katie. Do you know? Because like I
Yeah.
think that's the other reason that Archie's like a little bummed out. Because
my girlfriend is like in
Yeah.
love with this girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and that I don't think that was weird, but it just brought like those close-up shots combined with her like being so into this girl, and
Yep.
I just felt like it was like a little bit of a weird energy, like almost to the point where maybe she's got some sort of supernatural thing that is causing everyone
She's
to lose their
charming
mind.
everybody.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
either that or she's a cam girl. Like there's no other. What is the mystery behind this woman?
I used to do porn, and now they all know.
I'll still win them over with these.
My name
outfits.
was Katy Cream.
Oh no!
Oh, come on, that was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
Katy Scream?
I like Katie Cream better.
Mm-hmm.
Scream insinuates she doesn't like it
Or likes it too much.
or likes it too much. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So,
What if you started an ice cream shop that was Katie's Creams?
oh man, I would be selling out of ice cream night and day. So do we want to take bets of what the mystery of Katy Keene is, or if she has like some torrid past or anything? Because she's hiding something.
Right.
We don't know what it is. Was she like kicked out of her previous school for being a bully? Did she have a promising fashion career and ruined it by doing drugs? Like what is this going to be?
I think she's a popular person or a famous person with a different name. And she's moved to a small town Riverdale where people aren't as plugged in maybe
Mm-hmm.
and changed her name. So she's actually like
To escape her famous...
Yeah, she's actually like a famous like fashion model or YouTuber or something that got tired of the limelight.
Follow me on this, and this may be a pipe dream. What if
A guy can dream.
this is Archie's first attempt at a trans character? Like Katy Keene is who she is now, but she used to be a boy.
How insanely topical would that be?
Yes.
With the popular makeup YouTube tutorial
Yes.
girl
Mm-hmm.
that was just came out as trans.
Yeah. I think it would sell 50 million copies.
We talked about this on our
Best of.
best ofs on predictions for the next year.
Yeah.
And one of my things was that there's not a mainstream superhero character
No.
that I can think of off the top of my head that's trans. We've got trans characters in comic books.
And in TV shows about
Right.
superheroes,
Yes.
but not a real
Right.
leading.
Flagship sort
Yes.
of character that's trans.
Yeah.
I think I don't really see Archie doing this or the Archie comic doing this,
Uh-huh.
but I think it would be
Oh, I
a
think
perfect
there's-
setup for.
I think they're the perfect medium to do this.
Yeah.
Especially
I
a
agree.
Riverdale, if they're getting all of this spin-off energy and this mainstream energy,
Yeah.
I think they're perfectly poised to do something like that.
Just alone, if you're thinking from like a producer, creator like aspect, that generates articles, conversation. People will be talking about your product. And you also get to talk about something that's very important about, acceptance and, a group of people that is disenfranchised.
Well, now you ruined Archie and Katy Keene for me because I doubt it's going to be that.
I know, but it'd
and
be
that's
so brilliant.
way better than anything it's probably
Yeah.
could be.
I was thinking like, oh, she's an alien and she came to a new planet, or like supernatural, like how Sabrina's kind of gotten
Yeah.
weird like that.
That's such a good take. How
It
cool would
really
it be
is.
if she was like the it girl in a town and then comes out to everybody at the end of it? That
she
would be
went
so
through this
cool.
transition, yeah.
Right.
And her sister is like part of who's helping her to allow herself to be who she is and like herald that
Right.
via social. Yeah, dang, that would be so good.
Yeah.
Sorry
Just a
for all
thought
my
I had.
chair squeaks.
That's okay.
You're good. I'll allow it.
Yeah. I thought
Gotta get comfy.
for as wholesome as these Archie books are, this could have been super hokey and unbearable to read, but it was actually pretty pleasant and a lot of fun.
100%.
Art was beautiful.
I enjoyed myself.
Kick-ass creative team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I recognize the artist's work from another comic, and now I'm spacing on it.
I looked up the name too.
Doom, 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 doom. It was a series that I really enjoyed. Caitlin's looking it up. She's looking it up. What was it? Oh, it was another Archie book. She did Blossom 666,
Oh, that's right.
which I loved that book.
That's right. She has also done DC Bombshells,
Mm-hmm.
Harley and Ivy meet Betty and Veronica.
Yep.
Dazzler.
Dazzler. Okay. So she's well versed in the Archie verse
And Leading Ladies.
and leading ladies. Correct. So very cool.
Great team.
Yeah.
Very happy with this book as a
She was on
Archie fan.
Fantastic Four too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did the wedding
Yep.
Fantastic Four issue.
Oh, okay.
So very cool. Very surprised by this book. I thought I was actually going to hate it. And I'm a big Archie fan.
Yeah.
And I thought this was going to be a stupid throwaway book
To promote the show.
to promote the show
Yep.
and just a weak storyline. But
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. So there it is.
Mariko Tamaki and your team never let us down.
Ever.
Yeah.
That wasn't a command. it was that they never let us down.
You have pleased
historically.
us. Continue.
Let that be a warning to you.
Next up, we've got Ironman 2020. Guess what? It's out on Marvel Comics.
Guess what? It's convoluted as shit.
Ooh, it was rough. Ooh, it was rough. We looked at a review of it yesterday, and people were like shitting on this comic.
Right.
And I thought, no way I'm not going to like it. Dan Slott is a comic zaddy
Who we all enjoy, by the way.
knows how to write a fucking comic.
Yeah, this review was a little bit too anti-slot. Like, it made me think that it was
The
so
previous
slanted
reviews,
that
yeah.
there's no way that I'm going to agree with this person
Right.
about this book. And then after I read it, I was like, I really hope that you guys don't feel differently about it than I do. It doesn't seem like you did.
No.
Um,
Can you even give us a synopsis on this?
I'll try. See
Okay.
how close this hits the mark. Also, I'm going to read it the way everything in this book was delivered, which is with like 15 exclamation points behind each sentence. So, the future is now. Artificial intelligence becomes a looming threat or becomes endangered, depending on whose side you're on in this book. The robot rebellion, led by Mark I, must battle Arno Stark and Sunset Bane in order to save themselves. But if they save themselves, how will they stop the extinction event predicted by Arno? Do you get it?
Do you get it, guys? Do you get it?
Does that? That's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you
but
accurately wrapped this up in the weirdest looking nutshell
Yeah,
I've ever seen.
like a mutated peanut shell.
it's like, it's like, Arrested Development, how they would do like their subplots that never got tied up at the end
Yes.
of each show.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that, where you're like, what's going to be picked up? What's going to be more important? How are we even going to see these things fleshed out?
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't even cover the fact that throughout the book, they're trying to tease this, where is Tony Stark? Is Tony Stark AI? Is Tony Stark dead? All these cameos of people in like TMZ fashion. It was super, super weird.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot going on here that was not good.
Just confusing and didn't need to be told.
Yeah.
This story.
I feel like the conversation is more what didn't work here rather than like the actual comic itself.
Right.
We could start with, did it seem like a first issue?
No.
It seemed like a start of a new arc.
So right now we're sharing a Comixology account between the two of us, and I opened the book. He had already left off at like page 11 or something.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. I'm going to go back to the beginning. Didn't even help. Like by the time I got to page 11, I was like, yep, still don't really have a good footing on where we are. So not a great first issue in that regard.
Not at all. One of the things that'll help emphasize that, there was a giveaway in comic shops that when you bought this book, you got this mini comic that gave you a bio of all of the Marvel AI that was making an appearance in this and the role that they played in this story leading up to now. And additionally, there was which I don't know if you would have gotten in the Comixology book, a timeline
We got that.
of Arno Stark's life and then a parallel timeline of Tony Stark's life, which was not clear to me in that infographic that was even what was going on.
Right.
So first of all,
I could have used that as a primer. It was at the very end. I don't know if
Right.
it was in the end of the book,
So
the physical book.
So the compliment I can give Dan Slott here is that you know your Marvel shit and you're incorporating a ton.
Of other series, which has to be a lot of work
Yeah.
to create even something feasible of a cohesive plot.
It's one of the interesting tidbits and backstory I got in the mini comic we picked up is that C.B. Cebulski wrote like a little foreword for it. He's the editor-in-chief of Marvel. And he says that this comic was born out of this idea from maybe an 80s comic book.
Machine Man?
Was it Machine Man? That says this guy is going to be the Iron Man of 2020. And it told a story in the future.
Oh, okay, yeah. There wasn't Machine Man, but
Ooh,
it's
okay.
from an Iron Man book, yeah.
So that's a pretty weak premise just to say, like,
We did it.
Let's make that actual canon. Like, no one's a fan of that arc.
Yeah.
I am a huge Marvel head, and I had no concept that was a pre-existing thing.
That's what was that paying off for
Right.
anyone besides the guys who wanted to do it in the first place.
Just like guys who've worked at Marvel for 20 years.
Yeah, it's like they're flipping through old back issues and like, oh, wait.
Wouldn't it be cool if we did this?
Yeah, it's going to be 2020 next year. We have an Ironman 2020 from the 80s. Should we do something?
There's 100 guys in America who are like, cool, they actually did it.
And by the way, what a pissant character, Arno Stark.
Yeah, he's
Correct.
not likable.
Forgotten brother of Tony Stark,
He's
who had
not
to live in an
likable.
iron lung, apparently.
I have to imagine that even if you have this plot that this person's going to be Iron Man in 2020, you can do something else with it to where it's not like 50 stories in one story.
Yeah. Please.
I think it was just trying to do too much.
Ease me into it.
Yes.
And like, it's an interesting concept of, do robots that have AI have rights? That's an interesting concept.
Yes.
It is, but I've read that before.
Yes.
I feel like.
And I get putting it into this context of now we've got two warring factions where you're not really sure who to root for because one is evil but ultimately going to save the entire planet. The other is good and fighting for a just cause but ultimately going to get in the way of this extinction event. Maybe that but it really was just so much work getting people there to where they understood this to be the situation that you're dropped in that you just lose. We've had to talk about it now for 15 minutes just for me to realize, okay, this is where we were.
Mm-hmm. And that conundrum back and forth between what this person's trying to fight for and what that person's trying to fight for seems like a normal superhero would have said, hang on,
let's talk this
all
out.
talk this out.
Yes.
And instead, Arno's a shithead who's just like, I don't care. I'm going to fucking blow up a factory full of AI who are essentially sentient living beings.
And then I'm going to go back to my parents who I've trapped in a living prison.
Let's go through some of the, now that we've covered the vague things that were convoluted and stupid about this, let's talk about some of the specific things that were stupid in this.
Are you telling me that Howard fucking Stark couldn't figure out a way to get himself out of that?
That's a great point.
There's no way.
Unless they're chained to the floor.
Yeah, there is no way. Unless they've got literal kill switches in their heads.
With Arno, he might.
There's no way he's not getting out of that. He's got to figure out a way to hack that somehow.
Yeah, so if you haven't read the book, what we're talking about is Arno has cloned his parents and brought them back to life.
Yeah.
Howard Stark, one of the...
Arno has what we would like to call tiny baby dick energy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's the opposite. Because he's just doing all these things.
So unlikable.
Unlikable.
He's a brat. He's an absolute
He's
brat.
like, you guys kept me away in an iron lung so I could survive from a evil monster trying to kill me.
Yeah.
So that I could have some semblance at a life later on when the technology was possible.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah.
And so now I'm returning the favor by essentially reincarnating you and then trapping you inside of a high-rise apartment.
Plucking you from the peaceful death you were in and now putting you into this literal hell.
So bizarre.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with Tony? You're going to do it with your parents, but
Well,
not with, like...
Right.
That's a whole other can of worms,
Well,
man.
and like, can someone's clones, like you have all these Nick Fury bots, like clearly someone can be uploaded or their consciousness can be uploaded more than once.
Yes. The Nick Fury bots were a hilarious nod, but also stupid thing number 2 about this comic. Because if
a long list of stupid things.
If you're a long-standing Marvel fan, you know that there's been a million LMDs, life model decoys of Nick Fury that we've just torn through.
It's like a Venture Brothers situation. Just like...
Right, exactly. And the fact that they would all like team up and be like, hey,
wait a minute.
Us LMD Nick Furies have rights too.
We don't want to get hoed.
Is pretty funny.
Yeah.
That they would become like AI terrorists or something.
Yeah, they were protesting.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Is
For their robot
kind of a hoot.
brethren.
Yes, exactly right.
So
But the
Yeah.
scenes with them were very hokey. It's hard to have like a scene you're supposed to take seriously with like 10 Nick Furies, half of which
are idiots.
have their skin ripped off in key places so you remember they're robots.
If you like, if it were from an attitude that like everybody in this book was sort of played by like a Patrick Warburton type, like it would almost become something that would be entertaining in and of itself. Like, let's take this wacky storyline from the 80s.
Yeah.
Let's make it like high stakes everything in kind of a fun little romp, but it seemed like it wasn't supposed to be like that.
No.
Can I fantasy cast right here? As if Chip Zdarsky had written some of this, I felt like it would have been a smash hit. Like his humor would have probably jettisoned this into another stratosphere.
I mean, even the guy who wrote Spider-Ham 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
or Kibblesmith.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a hokey, over-the-top concept.
Yeah, it's
And trying to make it serious
yeah.
isn't serving anybody.
Slot took it like 70% there.
Yeah.
We just needed
Yeah.
that extra 30% to be
Yeah.
like, okay, I know that I can have a little fun with this
Yeah.
story instead of trying to piece it out just so I can make sense of it.
I don't know why it bugs me, but the Tony Stark thing is just like annoying to me.
Yeah.
Tony Stark being
Let's
Mark
call-
1 or Tony Stark being in the
just
wind?
like how they got here.
Dumb thing number 3.
Okay.
Explain Tony Stark's current situation.
Yeah. So what was it like?
If you can.
Civil War II.
Okay.
Tony gets
Well, you're going back.
like gravely
Because
injured.
that great timeline we got.
Yeah.
Right.
So he gets gravely injured in Civil War II in a coma.
Uh-huh.
In a coma for a long time. They recreate another body, and he downloads his consciousness into that body.
Yep.
So we have fake Tony number 1. Then he does it again into like an upgraded body. And so like now, are we on the second or third Tony Stark here that is the Mark 1?
Well, and the other thing is this book almost posits that the other ones are still out there coexisting because
Yeah.
one of them's getting drunk.
One's on a bender.
Yes. Maybe the other one hasn't figured out that he isn't Tony Stark Iron Man.
Mhm.
I think there's multiple now.
Yeah.
Mark 1 is the first clone.
Yes.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole concept behind the book is that
Mark 1.
that Mark 1 has realized that having had a consciousness downloaded into you essentially makes you
AI.
artificial
Yeah.
intelligence. You haven't recreated a soul. You're not God.
Right. Yeah.
But that cognitive dissonance of knowing how it feels to feel as if you are human might essentially make you a little bit more human, getting into like where they need rights.
Yeah. If I was high right now and you were making that point to me, I would be like, this is going to be the best comic book ever written. Like, this is like crazy, huge, big shit.
And it may turn into that, as this first issue was bogged down with a lot of bullshit.
It's too much.
And Arno sucks,
Arno
man.
fucking blows.
There's nothing redeeming about him.
The
There
other thing,
are no
too-
good qualities about him.
Oh, but ching.
The other thing too is like his partner in crime, I could give a shit less about.
Yeah.
You had this woman who could have been diabolical, a little schemy, a little underhanded, but yet still a powerhouse. And instead, she's like weird second fiddle, yet
Yeah.
still holding all this power. Basically, the only thing we get to see her do is come in and do some interior design. That's not fun.
Yeah, you're right.
She's like stroking a cat and saying, love this, hate that, get rid of this. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care about that.
cat
like,
thing.
let me see her do something else. Like, if she's really his partner in crime, she had to have gotten there by doing
Something
something
heinous.
interesting.
Yeah.
Is that your fourth
I
knock?
want to
the
circle
cat?
back to the cat thing. I'm not going to keep just doing stupid thing from this book because there was a million of them.
'Kay.
But let's.
Wait, was that the same? That was the same cat.
Yeah, I'm going to end with. I'll end with stupid thing 4. There is a cat who is a doctor, and he has a partner
Mhm.
who has been. The cat has a collar on, which is like transcribing the cat's like thoughts or meowing into English, right?
So she was making the point that it wasn't that.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
wasn't it?
That the
So it's
doctor had been duped because his cat doctor friend was just a cat, and the collar around the cat's neck
Was the actual.
was an AI,
But here's the
making
thing.
him think that his buddy was a cat doctor.
The reason why it's stupid.
And she just shits on him and is like, "This was the perfect way to get back at you."
You've been BFFs with a collar. Like,
you
so-
stupid git.
So here's the other reason that's stupid. There's no way a human could be duped by that, because if the collar's making all these intelligible points, but the cat's over there licking themselves for 40 minutes, like,
Yeah.
they're not going to think, oh, that's really my doctor friend.
Yeah.
Hey, remember 20 years ago when we went on that fishing trip? No. I am your doctor friend.
No, you're right. Like, we're talking about how to, like, save someone's life while you're, like, licking your butthole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're all cat, my friend.
Damn,
Right.
Dave, knock it off. You're going heavy on the butthole right now.
Multitasking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now find the vein. Meow, meow.
Anything else in this train wreck?
I'm sure there is.
It's
I would say I would love to hear from somebody on the Twitter or Instagram or something if you've been reading Ironman for like 5 years straight.
if this is a good payoff.
Yeah, if you're enjoying this payoff, because we're coming from a place where we've dipped in and out of different Ironman
Right.
runs, and maybe for us this is terrible because we just don't have the build-up.
Yeah. I have all of the Tony Stark Iron Man series.
Do you?
It's like 19 or 18 books or whatever. It was pretty decent.
I would also be interested to hear from someone who's read that 80s comic that had the plot where this
Yeah.
was going to be Iron Man in 2020, and see how well
Yeah.
that jives.
Yeah.
If it was just like a throwaway story that like didn't validate this happening,
Or maybe
what.
it laid just too much groundwork to make something happen now.
I think there's just a lot of loose wires in this, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of going out of control.
The fact that we now know that Tony isn't really Richard Stark's actual son.
Yeah, that was something I didn't know, but the timeline had me a little bit even more confused.
Yeah. So befuddling.
Yeah. A lot of things that I think would piss long-standing fans off.
Yeah.
You're confusing new fans and you're pissing old fans off by changing everything they
Yeah.
thought they knew about the character.
AKA, you're Marvel.
Yep. Thanks, Marvel.
Yeah. Just trying to make a buck.
We'll buy all your comics next week, too.
Yeah. Fuck you.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us this week. It was a pleasure, like always.
Like always, rate and review. Find us on Patreon. All the socials. You know the deal.
We love you.
Bye, baby.